The sound of a manila envelope hitting a slab of imported Italian granite isn't loud, but in a room made entirely of glass and silence, it sounded like a gunshot. That was the moment my marriage didn't just die, it was executed. Vanessa stood on the other side of the kitchen island, looking like $1,000,000, which, ironically, was exactly the amount she was trying to extort from me. She didn't look angry. She didn't look sad. She looked like she was closing a deal on a penthouse in downtown Denver. She tapped a perfectly manicured fingernail on the paperwork. "You add me to the trust by Friday, Ethan, or I file. And if I file, I'm taking half. The house, the business, the accounts, all of it." I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. She was wearing that white silk blouse I bought her for our anniversary, the one she wore when we hosted charity galas to impress people we didn't like. She was beautiful, sure. Dangerous things usually are. But behind those eyes, I saw the calculation. She thought she had me cornered. She thought I was just some rugged builder who got lucky with a few contracts and didn't know how to read the fine print. She forgot that before I started pouring concrete foundations, I learned how to bury things so deep they never come back up. "Do what you have to do," I said. My voice was steady, flat. No yelling, no throwing the whiskey glass against the wall, even though the urge was there, burning in my chest like heartburn. She blinked, just once. A glitch in her perfect composure. She expected me to beg. She expected me to panic about my reputation in Boulder, about the scandal. "You think I'm bluffing?" she asked, her voice dropping an octave, losing that sweet, public-facing lilt. "I've been talking to lawyers, Ethan. I know what you're worth. I know about the warehouses in Texas. I know about the logistics shares. You can't hide that kind of money from a wife." "I'm not hiding anything, Vanessa," I said, taking a sip of my drink. "I'm just telling you to go ahead." She grabbed the folder, turned on her heel, and walked out. I watched her go. She took the Porsche. Of course she did. I stayed in the kitchen, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, and thought about my father. The old man was a paranoid son of a bitch, God rest his soul. He didn't trust the government, he didn't trust banks, and he sure as hell didn't trust the women I dated. "Ethan," he used to say, chewing on a cigar that smelled like burning tires, "you build a house with wood and nails, but you build a legacy with ironclad paper." He set up the Nevada Trust 3 years before I even met Vanessa. An irrevocable, multi-layered fortress of a trust. A spendthrift trust. It's a nasty little piece of legal work that basically says the beneficiary, me, doesn't actually own the assets. I just get the benefit of them. And because I don't own them, neither does my wife. And most importantly, the trustee has the power to cut off payments if someone tries to attach a lien or a judgment to it. Dad basically built a financial panic room and swallowed the key. Vanessa thought she was divorcing a rich business owner. She didn't realize she was trying to sue a ghost, but she didn't wait until Friday. That was her first mistake. She was greedy, and greed makes people sloppy. The process server showed up at my job site on Wednesday. I was in the middle of a muddy lot in North Boulder, arguing with a subcontractor about rebar spacing, when this kid in a windbreaker waddles up through the slush and hands me the envelope. Right in front of my crew. My foreman, a guy named Mike, who's been with me for 10 years, looked at the papers and then at me. "Trouble, boss?" he asked. "Just taking out the trash, Mike," I said, shoving the papers into my truck. But I was seething. It wasn't the divorce, it was the disrespect. I called my lawyer, Sarah Mitchell, on the drive back to the office. Sarah is the kind of lawyer who scares other lawyers. She doesn't yell, she just whispers facts until you bleed out. "She filed," I told her. She's asking for 900 grand as an initial settlement for equitable distribution and emotional maintenance. She's claiming financial abuse, Sarah." "Standard playbook," Sarah said, her voice crisp over the Bluetooth. "But we have a problem, Ethan. Check your corporate operating account." My stomach dropped. I pulled over to the shoulder of the highway, hazard lights flashing, and pulled up the banking app on my phone. There it was, a transfer, $18,000, authorized yesterday. "She has power of attorney," I muttered, "from 3 years ago when I was in the hospital for my back surgery. I never revoked it." "She drained the operating capital for the new lumber shipment," Sarah said. "That's not marital assets, Ethan. That's company money. She just crossed a line from civil to criminal, but she's betting you won't press charges because you don't want the bad press." "She bet wrong," I said. That night, the house felt like a tomb. She was gone, staying at the Four Seasons in Denver, racking up a bill on a credit card I was about to cancel. I sat in my office and went into war mode. I didn't sleep. I locked down everything. I revoked the POA, alerted the banks, froze the joint cards. But then I saw the Instagram posts. That's the thing about modern warfare. It's not fought in trenches, it's fought in the comment sections. Vanessa posted a black and white photo of herself looking out a window, teary-eyed. The caption was vague enough to avoid a libel suit, but specific enough to ruin me. Sometimes you have to walk away from the golden cage to find your own voice. Financial control is violence. #survivor. #new beginnings. My phone started blowing up. Clients. The wife of a city councilman I was building a deck for. People in Boulder love a victim, and Vanessa played the part perfectly. I was the stoic, cold, controlling husband hoarding his millions while his poor wife had to beg for scraps. I wanted to scream. I wanted to post the bank statements showing the $50,000 kitchen renovation she demanded, the trips to Cabo, the closet full of shoes that cost more than my first truck. But I knew that arguing on the internet is like wrestling a pig in shit. You both get dirty, but the pig likes it. So I went quiet. I let the rumors swirl. I let people give me the side-eye at the coffee shop. I focused on the work, but I also hired a guy, not a lawyer, a PI. His name was Roy, and he looked like a thumb with a mustache, but he was the best in the state. "I want to know who's advising her," I told Roy. "Vanessa is smart, but she's not pierce the corporate veil smart. Someone is feeding her these legal terms. She's quoting statutes in her text messages." It took Roy 4 days. He met me at a dive bar on Pearl Street, sliding a manila envelope across the table. It felt like déjà vu, only this envelope didn't contain demands. It contained ammunition. "Her lawyer is Caleb Turner," Roy said, chewing on a toothpick. "I know that," I said. "I've seen his signature on the motions. Flashy guy. Billboards on I-25. Turner turns it around for you. A clown." "Yeah, well," Roy smirked. "He's turning something around, all right. Look at page 3. I flipped the page. It was a photo. Grainy, taken with a long lens, but unmistakable. It was the patio of a bistro in Cherry Creek. Vanessa and Caleb. They weren't looking at documents. Caleb's hand was on her thigh under the table. They were laughing. The next photo was them entering the boutique hotel attached to the restaurant. The timestamp was 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. "Billable hours," Roy laughed. "They've been meeting up 3 times a week for consultations, usually followed by a 2-hour block in a suite paid for in cash. But here's the kicker, Ethan. Check the dates." I looked at the dates of the hotel visits. Then I pulled up my phone and looked at the bank transfer logs. The $18,000 she stole from my company. The transfer happened on the 14th, The hotel check-in was the 14th, 2 hours later. I felt a cold rage settle in my gut. It wasn't just an affair. I could almost forgive an affair. We were broken anyway. This was a conspiracy. She was sleeping with her lawyer, and she was using my stolen money to pay him. Or maybe just to pay for the room where they screwed while plotting how to take my father's legacy apart. It was so dirty, so cliché, and so incredibly stupid. "She's paying him with the money she stole from you," Roy said, reading my mind. "And he's accepting it, knowing where it came from. That's an ethical violation so big you could drive a bulldozer through it." "Don't release this," I said, putting the photos back. "Not yet." "You gonna sit on it?" "I'm gonna let them hang themselves," I said. "If I show this now, they settle. They back off. I don't want them to back off. I want to crush them." The court date for the preliminary hearing arrived 2 weeks later. The air in the courtroom was stale, smelling of floor wax and nervous sweat. Caleb Turner walked in like he owned the place. Shiny gray suit, teeth bleached too white, hair gelled within an inch of its life. He wouldn't look me in the eye. He was too busy whispering in Vanessa's ear, making her giggle. It was disgusting. They were treating my divorce like a date. Sarah, my lawyer, sat next to me. She was wearing a navy suit and reading a file, looking bored. "Let him talk," she whispered to me. "Let him put it on the record." The judge, a no-nonsense woman named Judge Holloway, who looked like she ate frivolous motions for breakfast, called the session to order. Caleb stood up and immediately started performing. "Your Honor," he boomed, "Mr. Cole is hiding behind a sham trust. He controls these assets. He uses them as his personal piggy bank, while my client, his devoted wife of 5 years, is left destitute. We are asking the court to pierce this trust and freeze all assets immediately." Judge Holloway looked over her glasses. "Destitute? Mrs. Cole appears to be wearing a Chanel suit, Counselor." "A relic of better times, Your Honor," Caleb said smoothly. "She is currently surviving on the charity of friends." I clenched my jaw so hard I thought a tooth might crack. Charity of friends. She was staying in a 5-star hotel and ordering room service. Then it was Sarah's turn. She didn't boom, she didn't pace. She just stood up and handed the judge a binder. "Your Honor, the trust in question is a Nevada Spendthrift Trust, established by the defendant's father prior to the marriage. Mr. Cole is a beneficiary, not a trustee. He has no power to distribute funds. We have included the affidavit from the independent trustee in Las Vegas, confirming that he has rejected Mr. Cole's requests for funds in the past, proving lack of control." Caleb jumped up. "Objection! That trustee is a college friend of the defendant." "Actually," Sarah said, flipping a page, "the trustee is a licensed fiduciary from a major bank. But if we want to talk about personal relationships affecting financial judgment—" She let the sentence hang in the air. Vanessa shifted in her seat. She looked at Caleb. For the first time I saw fear in her eyes. She knew I knew something, but she didn't know how much. The judge denied their motion to freeze the trust. It was a small win, but the war was just starting. Over the next month, Caleb papered us to death. Subpoenas for every receipt, every email, every text I'd sent since 2018. They were trying to bleed me dry on legal fees. It's a common tactic. Make the divorce so expensive that the husband just writes a check to make it go away. But I had the liquidity, and I had the hate. The turning point came during the deposition. We were in a glass-walled conference room. Vanessa sat across from me, Caleb next to her. A court reporter was typing everything. "Mrs. Cole," Sarah asked, "did you authorize a transfer of $18,000 from Cole Construction on the 14th of last month?" I needed living expenses, Vanessa stammered. Ethan cut off my cards. The cards were cut off on the 15th, Sarah said, sliding a bank statement across the table. You took the money while the cards were still active. And what did you do with that money? Caleb interjected. Objection! Relevance! It goes to the dissipation of marital assets, Sarah said calmly. Answer the question. I paid bills, Vanessa said. Which bills? Sarah asked. Just general bills. Sarah pulled out a piece of paper. It was a copy of the guest folio from the boutique hotel. Did you use this money to pay for a suite at the Crawford Hotel on the nights of the 14th, 16th, and 18th? Vanessa went pale. Caleb stiffened. He knew where this was going. I stayed there because I didn't feel safe at home, she lied. Interesting, Sarah said. Because according to the hotel security logs, you checked in with a guest. A male guest. Caleb slammed his hand on the table. This is harassment. My client's privacy is being invaded. Sarah looked at Caleb, and for the first time she smiled. It was a shark's smile. Mr. Turner, I'd be very careful about objecting to this line of questioning, considering the male guest seen on the security footage looks remarkably like you. The silence in the room was absolute. The court reporter stopped typing. Vanessa looked like she was going to throw up. Caleb turned a shade of red I've never seen on a human being before. It was the color of a stop sign. We're done here, Caleb choked out, grabbing his briefcase. We're leaving. You can leave, Sarah said to their backs. But we're attaching the video footage and the financial trail to our complaint with the Colorado Bar Association and the motion for summary judgment. That was the moment they broke. But I didn't let up. The next day, we filed the formal complaint. We laid it all out. The affair, the conflict of interest, the use of stolen corporate funds to pay for the lawyer she was sleeping with. In the legal world, that's a nuclear bomb. Caleb tried to call me, personally. He bypassed Sarah, which is another ethics violation, but the guy was desperate. He left a voicemail sounding like he was crying. Ethan, look, man to man, we can work this out. Don't ruin my career over a misunderstanding. She manipulated me too, man. You know how she is. I listened to the voicemail in my truck, parked in front of the skeletal frame of the new logistics center I was building. I didn't feel pity. I felt validation. He was throwing her under the bus to save his own skin. They deserved each other. I saved the voicemail and sent it to Sarah. Add this to the pile, I texted. The final hearing was anticlimactic, as these things often are. There was no shouting, just a very angry judge and two very defeated people. Caleb had recused himself, forced to, really, and Vanessa was represented by a public defender type she'd hired last minute because no reputable firm in Denver would touch her. The scandal had leaked. My PI made sure of that. The local legal blogs were having a field day. The Real Housewives of the Courtroom, they called it. Vanessa sat there, slumped. She looked smaller. The glamour was gone. She was wearing a simple dress, trying to look humble, but the judge wasn't buying it. Mrs. Cole, Judge Halloway said, looking down from the bench with supreme disgust. The court finds that you engaged in the theft of corporate funds. You acted in bad faith. You attempted to defraud this court regarding the nature of the trust assets. The gavel banged. It sounded like music. The judgment was brutal. The prenup stood, but because of her financial misconduct, she was penalized further. She got nothing from the business, nothing from the house, nothing from the trust. The judge awarded her $4,200, her half of the remaining balance in a checking account we used for groceries. That was it. But the kicker? The judge ordered her to repay the $18,000 she stole to my company, plus my legal fees. She was leaving the marriage not just with nothing, but with a debt of about 60 grand. As for Caleb, he didn't even show up. He was already suspended pending the bar investigation. The rumor was he was moving to Arizona to sell timeshares. I walked out of the courthouse and the sun was shining. The air was crisp and cold, that specific Colorado clean that hurts your lungs in a good way. Vanessa was standing by the curb, waiting for an Uber. Her Porsche was gone. I'd repossessed it the day before, since the lease was in the company name. She saw me coming and tried to muster up some of that old venom. "You happy, Ethan?" she spat. "You destroyed me. You have everything, and I have nothing. Is that what you wanted? To see me on the street?" I stopped and put my sunglasses on. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized I didn't hate her anymore. I didn't feel anything. She was just a bad investment I'd finally written off. "I didn't destroy you, Vanessa," I said. "You tried to rob a bank that was built to withstand a nuclear blast. You didn't read the blueprints. That's on you." "I loved you once," she said, her voice cracking. A last-ditch attempt at manipulation. "No," I said, walking past her toward my truck. "You loved the view. Now you're just standing in the parking lot." I climbed into my truck, the engine roaring to life. I had concrete to pour. I had a business to run. And for the first time in years, I had silence. It was the most expensive silence I'd ever bought, but damn, it was worth every penny. The rearview mirror showed her standing there, small and shrinking as I drove away. I didn't turn back. I had new boundaries to build, and this time, nobody was crossing them. Moral of the story. This story serves as a brutal reminder that silence shouldn't be mistaken for weakness. While Vanessa and Caleb focused on emotional manipulation and short-term greed, Ethan relied on discipline, legal foresight, and patience. It proves that in high-stakes conflicts, the person who screams the loudest usually loses to the person who has the best paperwork.